Hey everybody, welcome to the Dad Challenge podcast. My name's Josh. Today we're talking about Shari Franke, the Franke craziness case with 8 passengers, and everything that's been going on with a movie being made. Shari's now releasing a book. Kevin's got some interview that I kind of missed. I haven't been keeping up with the case as much. We're going to talk about it because we got to keep our eye on this because they're going to be coming up for parole, and it's going to be faster than you think. And we got to make sure that we keep pressure on, socially anyway, of these people who are putting them in prison so they stay in there for a very, very long time. So let's talk about it. So I've been sent this about 475 times today. The House of My Mother, A Daughter's Quest for Freedom by Shari Franke. Franke comes out January 2025, and this is what Shari says. She writes, "For the last year, I've been working on a project close to my heart, and now I'm ready to announce that my memoir, The House of My Mother, is coming out on January 7th, 2025. After years of silence, I'm finally sharing my story in my own words. This book will cover the painful journey and experiences of growing up under intense public scrutiny. For years, millions tuned in, captivated by our lives, unaware of the darker realities that unfolded behind the scenes." Very important book. And for the first time, I share my journey of finding myself outside my childhood home. The House of My Mother is my story of resilience, truth, and finding my own voice amidst the chaos. She's setting a great precedent here. I know Shari and Chad, don't get me wrong, they're not a huge fan of me because I'm a snarker, okay? And I've been snarking on them, on 8 passengers, not them, but on 8 passengers for it's coming up on 4 years now. One of the earliest videos I did after Micah was 8 passengers. Sat down with my son and we watched it together, and it was one of the biggest videos on my channel. And at that point, I'm like, okay, there's something to this. There's something big when it comes to family vlogging. It's not just Micah Stauffer. Then I'm starting to dive into other families and seeing how crazy this whole world is. And it's crazy. It is intense. And I think people like Shari writing books like this for 2 reasons. I think it's important that she writes it so that we get the understanding of what it's like to be a kid growing up in this world. We've got a couple of AMAs on Reddit, Ask Me Anythings. That are unverifiable if they're true or not. A bunch of people are out there doing it. Some people do it for attention. Some people are actually truly doing it. But I think Shari's onto something too for another reason, is that she's owed a lot of damn money. Okay? And according to some conversations Ruby had with Kevin on the phone, I'm pretty sure she just literally vacated their entire bank account, all of their kids' bank account, all the savings, because she had to pay for very expensive lawyers. And I'm sure that cost her a lot of money, and it cost her pretty penny. And she was calling him asking about the bag of cash. He didn't know it was. And remember, Kevin had her arrested because she went into the house to get stuff. Maybe she went and grabbed a bag of cash. And if she did, good. She's owed it. All the kids are owed it. 8 passengers and family vlogging doesn't exist without the kids in the channel. The brands that pay them to advertise pay them more when they use their children, right? And we're only just seeing laws now being passed to protect kids online. After what? How long's it been? Since the first big ones kind of dropped, which was, I guess, the shade tards. 15 years? It was 15 years for the legislature to catch up to protect kids' money that they are rightfully owed. Okay, and apparently, according to Reddit again, Shari Franke is testifying in Utah legislature. That's today. You're seeing this today. I'm recording it, but that's today. And Shari is scheduled to testify at the Utah Business and Labor Committee on Wednesday, October 16th at 1:15 p.m. She's at the end of the agenda, though, so probably closer to 3 or 4 p.m. Go, Shari. The committee will receive presentations from legislators and stakeholders on the issue of minors on social media. The committee will discuss any recommendations for statutory change, including the creation of financial protections for minors that receive compensation in exchange for their likeness. Now, this is an easy one to pass, right? Because it actually, my video on this, if they copy what California did, what Illinois did, it actually doesn't have any teeth. Because the one in California just says, if a kid shows up in 30% or more of the video, then you have to pay them. So all these people are going to do is just not have their kid in more than 30%. They're going to put them in less than 30%, which is, they're just going to find ways to skirt it, or they're going to move out of the state. Utah's a different beast because a lot of legislators and lawmakers in Utah are themselves Mormon. Mormons want to encourage vlogging. Okay, the Mormon church loves exploitation of children. They don't see any problem with it. They see, we're exposing what the Mormon, typical white family, wealthy, driving nice cars, going on vacations. That's what we're all about here at the Mormon church, everybody. So you'd want to be a part of that, right? They like this. They've encouraged it. They've gone up on stage and encouraged their congregation to go do this. And they get followed by millions because Mormons will watch Mormon content because it's safe, quote unquote, safe. But in the dark reality of it, these kids are being exploited online, and these families are not what they seem to be. We see her and the entire family does this. We got Bonnie Holeen, you got all the other sisters and brothers. They all at one point had a channel, and some of them don't have them now, but some of them still do. Bonnie Holeen it made all of her wealth exploiting her child, just like Ruby did. Okay, and some of those are pretty bad, what she was doing, blanket trading and talking about beating her kids and things. Like, she's just as bad. Sorry, not just as bad, because she didn't do ultimately what Ruby did. But she was very much like her sister in her attitude and the way that she parented. And so you see the Mormon Church really excited about this type of content because it creates safe content for other Mormons to watch. And again, it's advertising for the Mormon Church, which is like, if you're awake and you're aware of religion, who the hell would want to be part of something that creepy and crazy? And who would want to be a part of a religion that condones the exploitation of children? Right? Like, that's like hang a millstone around people's neck and throw them into the sea. That's what God says about people who hurt children. And I think this is hurting children. Shari's book is likely going to be that. It's going to be an account of what it's like to be a child who's been exploited by their mother and their father on social media. And again, you're going to see the more famous kids, as they age out of this, they're going to be the ones who get to write the books and make the money. But the ones who are mid-level, 1 million, 2 million subscriber kids, they might make a little bit. But this is a big, like, worldwide international story. So Shari's capitalizing on it, and rightfully so. I'm not trying to say that she shouldn't. This is her story. She should be able to make money on it. She should be able to tell it, and she should be paid very handsomely for it because she's fighting for something. And the more she gets paid, the more her voice is bigger, the more followers she has, the more she can bring people awareness to this. Look, I snark on exploiters. That's my niche. It's what I do. And it's actually kind of effective in some ways. But I think Shari has a really, really powerful story that can be very, very highly effective for those people who don't respond to snark. You know what I mean? There might be family vloggers out there who will listen and read this book and be like, okay, I can't do this to my kids anymore. From a firsthand account of somebody who is thoughtfully executing her story for people to watch and listen and read. Okay? Will it make a difference for certain people? No. Jess Fam's never going to stop exploiting her child. She doesn't give a shit. Doherty doesn't is never going to stop exploiting her children. They don't care. There is a bunch out there. They will not, and they are unapologetically okay with it. So Jonathan Sconajoli keeps trending on Twitter for all the wrong reasons. Now he's saying his daughter, his son, is out there going on his first date and like getting dolled up, this 10-year-old, and like just will use anything. Okay, these people are absolutely disgusting, all of them. Anybody who's on the internet and exploits their children are disgusting. They are the lowest form of life. They do not care about their children. They do not protect them. They just don't care. That's it. That's just no other way to put it. You cannot say you're a good parent and exploit your child in the same sentence. They do not coexist. Understand? So anyway, she's going to go in front of this thing in Utah, and I'm glad she is. But again, these things have no teeth. But Utah might not pass something like this, because last video I did about, I hope Utah does this. I hope this is the next state that they focus on. I think the senator or the whatever the guy's name is, governor. I think the governor of Utah who would pass this law is an actual Bible believing, Book of Mormon believing Mormon. Like, he's a diehard Mormon. So if the Mormon Church doesn't want something to happen, they're going to lobby him to be like, don't sign this law, because Mormons will leave the state if they're forced to pay their children. Because if they're anything like Ruby, and I'm not saying they all are like that, but a lot of them have that mentality. They're not going to pay. Remember, Ruby sat down and said, I'm not paying my kids anything. They can make their own way. That's what she's saying. Make your own damn way. And these kids are what made you your money, asshole. So F off. But the Mormon Church doesn't want to put any roadblocks in the way of content, because they want more. They want more Mormons out there doing this. Not unless you're Mom Talk. Then they don't. Mormons actually don't care about that either. But they want this content out there. They don't care. They don't care if exploitation of children happens. They don't care if kids get hurt, if their privacy is given away, if predators are out. They don't care. All they care about is the end game. That's it. So all that to say, I'm super happy that Shari Franke is writing this book. I'm absolutely going to pre-order this book, read this book, 100. I hope it's on audiobook. I'll probably just do audiobook. I don't have time to read a book. Okay, I love audiobooks. And it's similar to how I'm Glad My Mother Died, which is a book that I read an audiobook. I did it in an afternoon while I was working on my RV. It was great. And I got it, like, it was a great book, great read. I hope Shari does it. I hope that her publisher, her book deal, has her reading this so that it comes out in Audible. I would absolutely do that. If she doesn't, I guess I'll read it. But I'd actually encourage everybody to go pre-order this book so that it gets on the seller lists big time, especially on Amazon and maybe even New York Times bestseller lists. That would be great for Shari, not only monetarily, but to get this word out there, which I think is really, really important. Just a really quick update that Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt parole hearing. This video happened a couple of months ago. But I think it's important that we see how long they're going to be in prison for.
We have an update on Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt's parole hearings. They were supposed to be in September of 2024 this year, but the parole board announced the hearings won't take place until December 2026.
Nice.
The board
next December
also said that Ruby and Jody have to complete mental health psych evaluations, and those must be done by November 1st, 2026. The board also mandated both of them to participate in a cognitive behavioral therapy program. Can you guys
CBT
actually imagine Jody doing that? I know there was some confusion about how long they will be in prison. A viewer asked Ruby's son Chad why his mom's sentence is a range of years and not an exact number.
Based on her behavior, and then later down the road at parole will be exact. Yeah. And they're going to be model prisoners. They're not going to be in there, cooking meth in the toilet and, getting in fights and shanking people in the shower. They're not going to be doing any of that kind of stuff. They're going to be model prisoners. They're going to be let out because they're going to be pressured from the Mormon church in Utah to let them out. They don't want these more Mormons in prison longer. They don't. And it's going to be heartbreaking when we all see this in like 2.5 years when these women get out of prison. We're all going to be real pissed.
Chad said it's based on her behavior, I believe, and then later down the road at a parole hearing, it will be exact. Well, that later down the road just got at least 2 years later. Ruby and Jody were sentenced in February 2024 for 4 counts of aggravated CA. Each count carries a sentence of 1 to 15 years. So we know they are there for a minimum of 4 years, and Utah has a cap of 30 years.
I honestly believe that, I know this, and if we're placing bets, Jody's going to get out before Ruby gets out, because Ruby's the actual one. If you read the diaries and you follow the case closely, I don't think that Jody actually physically, I could be wrong. I mean, she obviously mitigated it and let it happen and had like the prison in her house and the safe and all that kind of stuff and encouraged her to do it, but I don't think she actually physically hurt the children. I could be wrong about that. But from what I've gathered, I don't think so. And so she was just an accomplice, and Ruby was the one actually doing all the abusing. And I honestly think that Ruby will be in there longer than Jody.
A date for parole hearings, the board said they consider the minimum sentence and the sentencing guidelines, the nature of the offense, and victim impact. A member of the parole board previously explained what will most likely happen in the...
No decisions are actually made in the original hearing, and the parole board in all of its hearings takes information under advisement, usually issues. This is such a cop-out. Like, what's wrong with your justice system? Why? Why shouldn't a prisoner know how long they're going to be in there? And why shouldn't the public know how long a prisoner is going to be in there? They're like, well, we'll just take a look, we'll see. Those are IOUs. Those are worth more than money.
Original hearing. He said no decisions are actually made in the original hearing. They take all of the information under advisement and usually issue a decision after that. She said it could be within a few days. It could be up to a few...
Why is a parole board setting the sentence when it's supposed to be a judge and a jury? Is it like, I don't get your system, Utah. It's bullshit.
Few weeks. The board could decide to set a parole date, or they could decide not to set a parole date and set a rehearing date instead. That means after a certain amount of time, they come back again after they do the things that they're ordering them to do, and they'll reassess.
Man, I hope they have some enemies of the Mormon Church on that board.
Ruby and Jody only serve the minimum sentence if they do all these things they're required to do. What do you guys think?
I hope they stay in prison for the rest of their lives. That's what I think. Anyway, so another big change in this case is that Ruby Franke's story is getting turned into a Lifetime movie, and her daughter doesn't want people to watch. Now, it's only Shari Franke that's really come out with a statement on this, and here's the statement here. It says here, here's my daily reminder. The Lifetime movie cannot air. Please help me and make sure the movie doesn't get watched or supported or released. I will keep pressing this issue. Thanks for standing with me. We were not consulted. We are not getting a dime from this movie. This is deeply traumatic for me to witness. And she had a post earlier about how she didn't even realize this movie was coming out until she saw a preview for it in class, which was traumatizing for her. I've got mixed feelings on this, but I want to read this article first. It's been 7 months since the former mommy vlogger Ruby Franke was sentenced to 4 consecutive 1 to 15-year prison terms after pleading guilty to 4 counts of child abuse. But Lifetime, the television channel famous for tabloid-esque, low-budget retellings of gruesome news stories, is already making a dramatized version of the case. Ruby's daughter, Shari Franke, 21, has said it's harming her mother's victims, Shari's traumatized siblings in the process. Mormon Gone Wrong, the Ruby Franke story starring Emily Ullerup as Ruby and Heather Locklear. She's still alive? As Jodie Hildebrandt? Heather Locklear? Jodie's in prison be like, I'm being played by Heather Locklear. Heather Locklear was like the 90s babe. Who's also serving 4 consecutive prison sentences. Child abuse. Ruby's marriage counselor and eventual business partner is set to premiere on October 26th. The trailer for the film claims it's ripped from the headlines and depicts how Ruby claims she was brainwashed by Hildebrandt and eventually convinced to abuse her children. The trailer itself focuses on Hildebrandt and how her relationship with Ruby went from counselor to controller, but hints at some deeper trauma in the story. Shari, Ruby's oldest daughter, did not respond to Rolling Stone's request for comment, but she's been extremely vocal on Instagram about her dislike that the film was ever made. Lifetime did not immediately reply to Rolling Stone's request, but here it is. Here's the preview.
Ruby Franke's parenting vlog surpassed 2.5 million viewers.
Between you and me, they're not perfect.
I would like to offer my help.
I got a message. Eve forgot her lunch today. So the natural outcome is Eve will need to go hungry.
My counseling has saved a lot of Christian families.
You think you really need a therapist? I think Jodie wants to take advantage of you.
Your children's souls are in jeopardy. Together, we're going to make them perfect.
Jodie wants to come live with us.
Mommy.
Jodie needs quiet. She wants us to have a separation. No more contact with the children.
I have doubts about Jodie's methods. She uses faith to brainwash people.
I take directions straight from God. No more living in distortion. There's only truth and responsibility.
Jodie is God's messenger. I believe in Jodie. Jodie says Jodie.
Mom, come
Damn.
on. The Ruby Franke story premieres Saturday, October 26th at 8. Part of Truly Unbelievable Movies, a Ripped from the Headlines event, only on Lifetime.
The trailer is epic, like in a good way. Like it cinematically looks really good. Now, I will side with Shari on this, and if she doesn't want this out, this is her story. This is her story, and if she doesn't want it out, okay. But at the same time, this is the danger of being a family vlogger. Maybe one day Lifetime's going to capitalize on the story of your family, and that's kind of not... This is going to sound harsh, but I'm not really trying to mean it to sound harsh. It's really not up to Shari. Okay, it sucks that it's not, but it really isn't. Okay, Ruby decided one day that she's going to turn a camera on and vlog about her family and give away all of her children's privacy and all the punishments they ever had and all the leg shaving and the periods and the mood swings and the punishments and all the crap that they've done to each other. And she was going to put that on the internet. And these kids are completely victims for that, right? But the world is interested when it all falls apart. Micah Stauffer was one of those cases. I'm surprised she's got a documentary coming out too soon. I'm surprised Lifetime didn't do a video on that. But this is more salacious, obviously. But like, again, this is why it's so important not to put your kids on the internet. This is why you could never get informed consent from children. Because maybe one day you're going to have a Lifetime movie written about you because you're a crazy bitch who tortured your children. Okay, maybe something's going to happen to one of your kids one day. They're going to get kidnapped by a predator and you're going to become a Lifetime movie, or your kid's trauma is going to be on display for everybody to see, like Cecily Bitchman the other day, talking about her kid almost dying in multiple times in the video, and on TikTok, like multiple videos of it. Okay, the kid can't consent to, all this shows me, and it just reiterates my stance here, is that kids will never be able to consent because you will never be able to tell your child the actual outcome of this. You could say, here are some potential outcomes, but you can't. A child will never understand what a potential outcome means, which is why you should never, ever, ever put your child on the internet. Err on the side of caution. And when parents and family vloggers get out there and they turn to page 55 of their family vlogging excuse book and they go, I asked my child's permission. They love being on videos. No, you don't, because you can never get consent, because you don't know if this is going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen at all. So there can never be informed consent when it comes to what these kids' futures are going to look like. Anything can happen. And so far, What we've seen is from all these kids who've aged out of it is that they hate it, and that they're writing tell-all books, and they're writing Ask Me Anythings, and they're doing videos about how it is. They're doing documentaries. They're taking part in this. Okay? No, none of it has been, not one kid has come out of this and been like, I'm so much better for this. I haven't seen it yet. And so all this shows me is that you just can't get consent. But at the same time, I wish Shari's wishes could be granted, but this is a story that the world has grasped onto, and people are going to capitalize on it. And that's not Shari's fault. Obviously, she's still the victim and continues to be victimized by this. But all this is not the fault of Lifetime. I mean, they have some responsibility to bear for what they put out there, and they didn't pay them, and they just stealing the story, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. But this is all on Ruby, everybody. And Shari should be writing a post and saying, thanks a lot, Mom. You absolutely just, everything keeps getting worse. And maybe that's going to happen in this book, but again, I know that sounds harsh, but I don't think I've even seen that. We've seen Chad out there being super happy his mom's put in jail and he's joking about it and all these stuff, but not Shari. And she's got a book to tell. She's got a book to sell. She's got her story to tell, and I'm here for it. But at the same time, your blame and your anger and your ire always should be at your dad and your mom, because they're the ones who started this, and nothing of this happens without what they have done. So saw the trailer suddenly in class, had anxiety attack. None of us were contacted about the movie. None of the proceeds are going to the kids. Shari wrote her Instagram story. That's silly. Some of the proceeds should go to these kids. This movie is trash and only hurts my siblings more. Please do not support this movie. She's continued to voice her anger at the film, including commenting on the actors, casting announcements on Instagram. If you're so wrong for this, leave us alone, Shari wrote on Ullerup's Instagram page. Don't air this movie. She's targeting the actors, which is actually a smart thing, because I mean, Ullerup has no say now. She signed on the dotted line of the contract. She acted in the film, and she could say don't release the film, and I've taken back my support for them. But the film's gonna air. All you're doing here is creating what's called the Barbra Streisand effect, or called the Streisand effect. Is she shouldn't have drawn any attention to. It's a Lifetime movie. It's not really going to get that much watch. But now this has got, this is one story of probably hundreds of this exact thing going on. This is exactly what Lifetime wanted, and you fed it to them on a silver platter, Shari. And I know you think you're going to get this stopped. I'm sorry to tell you this, you're not. Now they're just laughing at you, and it sucks because Lifetime's assholes for doing this, but they're just doing, the meme like this guy behind the tree. That's what they're doing. You gave them free advertising. You didn't want this movie to air, and yet now everybody's talking about the fact that you don't want this movie to air, and so now everybody's going to watch this damn movie. If Shari honestly is out there and saying, don't watch this movie, I mean, I'd love to honor her request. I would watch it anyway, probably, I don't think. But everybody's going to watch this movie, especially in the Snark forums. They're all going to watch this movie because they want to tell you how bad it is and everything else. It's going to get watched. It's going to be one of the most watched Lifetime shows ever, because you are seeing the Streisand effect in effect right now. Ruby42 is best known for a popular family YouTube channel, 8 Passengers, where from 2015-2022 she documented parenting her 6 children. Blah, we know that. Anyway, we know the whole story. All they do is, these stories all do this like one blurb of what's happening, and then they reiterate the entire story just to fill some words. That's it. That's all they do. Anyway, Mormon Gone Wrong, the Ruby Franke story will premiere on October 26th and promise. Oh, it's coming up soon. And promises in its promotional material to tackle the question, how could this idolized family-friendly mother of 6 and her spiritual guide transform into convicted child? I hope the movie at least takes on the fact that child exploitation is wrong, because I think at the core of all this story, and the reason I cover it, is because at its core, again, is child exploitation. And it never ends well. Yeah, so again, Shari writes this book, and a lot of comments in support. Absolutely. Nobody's not in support of Shari. We're all in support of Shari. She should get her justice, 100%. She should get her payday. She's owed tons and tons and tons of money from what her mom basically and dad stole. To this day, I still cannot believe that Kevin is getting away with this. Like, just straight up getting away with it. And again, people are like, well, he didn't do the abusing and all that stuff. Nope. But he absolutely had the ability of being their dad and had legal rights to them and didn't check up on them for a year, and it was just bullshit. Kevin is getting away with it and had Shari arrested for stealing laptops, taking things from her own house, just probably to document it for her book and stuff like that. It's all going to be in there, and that's why likely it's why Shari's kind of been silent on this whole thing. She's spoken out here, there, and a little bit. But it's going to be all in this book. She's brilliant for doing it. For keeping silent, like, you want to know the story? Go read the book. And I encourage you guys all to go buy this and read this book. I wish it was coming out before Christmas. It's been a great Christmas gift for a lot of people. She could have got her a big ass payday too. But anyway, I again encourage you guys to go read this book. It's gonna be very, very telling. Opening up the 8 passengers snark thread here. She's gonna be speaking for you, and if I remember tomorrow, I'll get on that. I wanted to show you this quick interview too that I missed with Kevin, again, who I cannot believe got away with this, but. This is from KUTV News in Salt Lake City. This was October 10th, 5 days ago.
What's your recommendation to the legislature to fix this? If you had to say, take this step, and this step.
To fix what? This guy exploited his children. I cannot stand the fact this guy gets to stand in front of cameras, completely doesn't get, like, no trouble for any of it. And then it's like, here's how he thinks... Dude, you exploited your children and you lived the lavish lifestyle of a child exploitation just like your wife did. So, spare me.
What would they be?
Well, first, I would recommend to the legislature that they bring the public into this discussion. So much of this discussion is going on behind closed doors, and I think that needs to stop.
I agree with him on that. Absolutely. Legislators who do things behind closed doors is bullshit, especially when it comes to laws that affect humans. I don't understand why people can't be privy to how the laws are made. This is why send the asteroid. That's why. Send the damn asteroid.
Is that the major issue here, the major problem?
Yeah, because you don't know what kind of behind closed door deals they're making in the Mormon church with their grubby little freaking tentacles are in there.
I think it's the major issue, but I do think it is a major issue. I think there needs to be transparency in dissecting the entire child welfare system.
So he's upset with the child welfare system, right? And here I'm over here being like, well, you had parental rights. And as much as he didn't want his wife to leave him and he was just being a cuck or whatever you want to call it, or a beta male, I don't care what you want to call it. This guy had a responsibility to his children and he had legal rights to get at them and understand, and see them, and didn't. And like, I don't care. And he's like, well, that's child welfare. You could have stopped all of this, Kevin. And you had the legal right to do so, just so you're aware. And nobody's asking, hey, you had parental rights. Why didn't you go find out where your kids were? What the hell? Where the hell were you? What the hell? I mean, I don't care. I know it's not his fault, but at the same time, he had a responsibility, like the family, more so than the family members who I also roast for this. More so than them. You don't get to, just not see your kids for 15 months and all of a sudden be like, child welfare's fault. 15 months? Yeah? Okay. So, that's deadbeat dad territory.
And I think a major issue that we don't talk a lot about, but I think we need to, is how much power the judges in the juvenile court have over this entire process. Huh? They literally are the drivers and the decision makers for the go or no go in most of these cases. And that really needs to be examined closer, I think.
No. I think he's mad because he doesn't have his kids and the judge has decided you don't get your kids. And if I was a judge in this case and hearing what I'm hearing from all the thing, I'd have been like, and he's never had to answer this question. Where were you for 15 months, bro? You're just living your life, eh? I would have been like, the judge has a right to be questioning. Why would I put the kids back in his care when he didn't care about them for 15 months?
Because?
Well, because do they really know what's going on? They're 3 steps removed from the child as opposed to individuals like teachers, neighbors, friends, ecclesiastical leaders.
Fans of the show.
Who are only 1 step removed from the child. And those individuals know best when something is wrong.
So.
And you should know best when something's wrong with your child. You had 15 months to find out and you didn't. I will die on this hill. I know people are like, well, you're unfairly, judging him. Yeah, I don't care if you think it's unfair. I don't give a shit. I'm a dad. And there's just no possible way I could be without my children for 15 months. This guy clearly doesn't give a shit. And he's like, oh, I was, they could be like, well, his wife's controlling and all this kind of stuff. Okay. No, I don't care how controlling your damn wife is. You have a responsibility as a father, especially in the Mormon church, a patriarchal religion, where you're the man of the house. to like stand up and protect your family, and you never did. So I like, so many things are against him, and there are not enough people calling him out.
More transparency, better judicial oversight and review. What else?
I would encourage the legislature to speak with the individuals who are boots on the ground in this. Not the director, not the administrators. Speak with the caseworkers.
We have a lot of bureaucrats in here this morning.
Absolutely.
That needs to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Shut up.
It's telling to me that a former caseworker came forward to the media and called the system broken, but wants to remain anonymous. Why? Why? Well,
I mean, we'll keep their job.
Obviously, that individual fears retribution. That's not right.
Or doesn't want to be connected to your case because it's very, very public.
You're here on behalf of your...
Okay, he was answering questions. So there you go. This man made a 20-minute video justifying sending his oldest son to torture camp. You cannot love your child and pay $15,000 to have them tortured. It's not a torture camp, but I understand what they're saying. They sent him to Anastasi. And yeah, they paid $15,000 for him to be living in the wilderness for a month or two or whatever it was. And then when he got home, this guy's a cuck, dude. He's a beta, gross, disgusting idiot who let his wife run the show. He deserves everything's coming his way. This guy was supposed to be the man of the house, supposed to be the dad. There is, again, and I know a lot of people hate when I talk about like traditional roles, but they live a traditional lifestyle. They live in they are adhering to a traditional Christian Mormon religion, which places the father the head of the house, and that's his role. And he's teaching at BYU and teaching Mormon principle. Like, he's not following his own damn religion that they're so closely tied to. Neither was Ruby. It is also a father's responsibility to make sure his children are being cared for properly. Abandoning your children for 13 months? Yep. What is that? Are you married to a narcissist? What the hell is that doing? People are like giving him excuses because she's a narcissist, because Ruby's a narcissist. Oh, she's a narcissist. Oh, okay. I don't care, man. You weren't with her for 15 months. You still can be like, I want to see my... At some point in that 13 to 15 months, at some point you're going to be like, look, I know this marriage is over, but now I'm going to get a lawyer. Now we're going to figure this out because I want to see my damn kids. Okay? At some point, you got to stop being a cuck. Ain't no way you had no idea a kid chained up in your basement you didn't know. You're just as guilty. You're asking the wrong person. He needs to be locked up for helping his wife abuse his kids. Yeah, like, everybody's on it, man. So he can fix his abandonment of his own kids using legislation of DCFS. It's a bit like John Wayne Gacy trying to legislate the use of lime in people's basements. That's pretty funny. Something I've always noticed about Kevin, he's really quiet and serious. He almost appears mad. I don't know if this is personality. No, he's just putting on an act. This guy's a beta loser. Why is he making any recommendations? He's a neglectful father. Thank you, Kevin. Someone says thank you. F off. Some of the comments in here were like, does anyone else think that if Jody hadn't finally been caught, that she may have started her own cult? She already had started the cult. Kevin has been after protective services ever since they first looked into him in Ruby. He spoke to the media and accused the system of being broken then. He's still bitter, and now he's just deflecting as far as I'm concerned. It's not like he was calling them to look into Ruby all that time and kept getting told the kids were fine. They failed the kids, but he failed them too. He could have called the police and demanded a wellness check at any time as the other parent with custody. They would have needed to have eyes on the children and wouldn't have just taken you to, I can't believe he's getting away with this. And I hope in Shari's book, she addresses this situation. Right? It's not, you don't have to, but I hope she does. I hope she addresses the fact that her father failed her siblings and her and everybody else. Okay? And the religion is really, 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 I'm pretty sure she's still Mormon. I don't understand how anybody could still be in any religion, especially Mormonism, after this. Like, and a lot of people are like, well, my faith is strong and it's going to take more than that to dismantle my faith. Your church is a cult. It's an absolute cult. And just as a reminder, this was the post that Shari made about 8 months ago. To every reporter and media journalist, leave me the hell alone. I'm not talking to anybody. I can speak for myself when I'm ready, and I don't need you to do it for me. Again, leaving the hell alone. I understand her not wanting to speak to people because she thinks people are going to capitalize on it. But when journalists and stuff want to speak to you, and you're like, I can do it when I'm ready. I don't need you to do it for me. I mean, you do want to speak to the media if you want to get your story out there. Now you're going to want to do interviews. So you got a book coming out. You want to do interviews. You want to be doing this. Now you're probably going to use the media. I don't understand this logic. But at the same time, I understand. She's like, it sucks because she's a victim. Everybody's a victim in this whole thing. And her parents put her in that position. And she still has to this day fight for it. And then, is writing a book about it and all that kind of stuff. again, just one more reason why you have to look at this and say, kids can't ever give informed consent. They'll never be able to give informed consent to this. She wants them to be in, and just an observation. Again, not trying to leave any bad taste in your mouth with this whole story, but maybe Lifetime was trying to reach out to her at this point, and she's just telling them all to piss off. So she said nobody reached out to me, and I don't think Lifetime does have a practice of reaching out to people. I think they're just obviously looking for salacious headlines. They don't want to reach out to the family, so they probably didn't. But yeah, it was just an important thing that we're watching here when it comes to this case. So, yeah, that's kind of the update, what's going on. I hope that Ruby stays in prison for at least 10 to 15 years, minimum. I hope Jody as well, because Jody's just as bad and she can't get out. And I don't know if she still has wealth. I don't know I hope she loses it all. And I hope they don't capitalize on these stories and write books on it. And if they do, hell, don't buy them. Don't read them. But the Mormons will, right? It's actually insane. The story is insane, and it is, again, all this is one big giant red flag, or people waving their arms to stop doing this to children. And the people out there still doing it after all this, and they're like, well, I'm not going to torture my kids. I know, but at the same time, your story matters. What you're putting out about your kids matters. Shari's being bugged, and Chad's being bugged, and everybody's being bugged about this whole thing when they didn't ask for this. Okay, they didn't. Shari's doing this, I think, out of necessity. She needs to get her money that she is owed and pay her bills and set up her future, and she's owed it because Ruby took that away from her. And I honestly believe, and I hope I'm wrong, that the legislator in Utah is not going to be implementing this anytime soon. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be the next day. It's not going to be next. It's probably going to be in the next 5 to 10 years when they have a lot of pressure put on them to do it. Because, again, at the top, who signs that bill is a guy who is a devout Mormon. And I don't think that the Mormon Church wants anything to do with any roadblocks in the way of creating this type of content. I really don't. They want their 10%, though. That's for sure. So, what do you guys think below? Are you going to buy the book? What do you think of my take on this? Am I a little too harsh? Maybe. I don't know. I feel like you got to look at it from all the angles here, right? But I am on Shari's side here. If she doesn't want us to watch the movie, I think that we shouldn't watch the movie. I think we should honor that, and we should be like, you're right. We don't want to give them money in our time and our social media currency, but we will read your book and we will get the story right from the source. And I think that's an important distinction here. So, what do you think? Everybody, take a deep breath. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here for the story. We're going to follow it right to the end, every step of the way. I will read this book, and I will do a video on it once I've done reading it and give her more exposure, because I think these types of stories should be out there, and they should be the ones that go massively viral. These books should be bestsellers. They're really, really interesting to us as developing people too, right? This stuff is relatively new, and it's something that we should all be looking into. So, yeah, maybe you should buy this for your favorite influencer if you still watch some, which you shouldn't, but maybe you do. Maybe you should send them this book. So, anyway, thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for being amazing, incredible, and valuable. Don't you forget it, and I will see you when I see you.